Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back once again to Cold Waters. A one-off video this time, not part of a series, because I've had a lot of questions in the comments and on Discord about Cold Waters surface combat and whether or not I want to do any of it, even a campaign of it. The answer is no, I'm not going to do a campaign of the surface combat in Cold Waters with Dotmod, because it just doesn't work very well as a campaign. The big problem Cold Waters has is that as a hard-coded limit, you can't have any friendlies in a battle with you. It's only ever you and your one lone vessel versus a bunch of enemies. And that presents problems if you want to do a surface ship campaign, because it means that it's always you in one lone surface ship versus a horde of enemies, and that's not really very realistic. In fact, it's not realistic at all, really. I mean, you can kind of get away with it a bit with submarines, you know, just having one lone sub versus a bunch of enemies, but with like one lone destroyer versus an enemy, you know, task force, it's a bit silly, really. I did try to do a surface campaign once. I had to go at the Soviet campaign in a surface vessel, and you start off in a pretty dodgy old Soviet destroyer from the 60s, because you have to use the prestige system in the Soviet campaign, which means you have to level up and you know, get better ranks and more prestige to be able to get better vessels. And I'm in this dinky little destroyer from the 60s that has no really particularly good weapons on it at all, and my first mission is to try and sink a NATO carrier task force by myself in my dinky little destroyer. And that was the point where I kind of realized, oh yeah, no, the surface vessels don't really work very well in campaign, do they? So that's why I won't be doing a surface vessel campaign. But the concept of it is cool, and they've done some work on it in the latest versions of Dotmod to sort of make it kind of fun. And so it is quite nice, actually. It is kind of fun to just occasionally jump into a single battle, you know, a single mission battle, and do a little bit of messing around in a surface ship. And there's lots of them to choose from, so I thought maybe I'd do that for you guys today. Just jump in a surface ship and mess about and show you some of the features, and yeah, it's fun. It's very, very, very different experience to you know, captaining a sub in this game, but it's still kind of fun. It's still kind of fun, so that's what we're going to do. I've set up a single mission. We should be facing a varied random number of enemies, submarines and surface ships, and the enemy should have an aircraft as well for us to contend with. And we're going to be in the County-class guided missile destroyer. It's a Royal Navy ship, one of which served in the Falklands, I believe. It says something about that down here. And it is armed with a bunch of weapons. It has Mark 46 Mod 5 torpedoes, which is interesting, actually, because the other British surface ships have Stingray torpedoes, and Stingray torpedoes, unlike Tigerfish, are actually pretty decent. The British lightweight anti-submarine warfare torpedoes are actually pretty good, although in this one we've got Mark 46 Mod 5s instead to play with, which are American built, I believe. And they're about the same. They're essentially the same. They do about 40 odd knots. They have a max depth of 400 meters. They are small lightweight torpedoes. You probably need more than one of them to sink an enemy sub, because the explosive yield of them is quite small. We also have MM40 Exocet missiles. I think we start with 4 of those. And we've got the 4.5-inch Mark 8 gun on the nose as well, which probably may not see any real use. You generally tend to only use it if you really get into a knife fight with an enemy surface ship, or if you force an enemy submarine to surface. We'll see whether or not that happens. The real party piece of these things, though, is... well, we've got a couple of other things, actually. We've got anti-missile defense, so presumably I think that's some sort of close-in weapon system. We've also got the GWS-24 Seacat, which is an anti-missile missile, if that makes any sense. You can use it to shoot down enemy incoming surface missiles. We can also deploy chaff to try and, you know, throw off enemy surface anti-ship missiles coming at us. And we've also got the GWS-1 Sea Slug, which is an anti-air missile, I believe, which is why I included an aircraft in this scenario, an enemy aircraft. So we can try and have a play around with the Sea Slug and shoot something down with it. I hope, maybe. Either that or the enemy bear will blow us up, I'm not sure. But it could be a laugh. The real party piece, though, as I was about to say, for this thing, is it comes with a helicopter, a Wessex HAS-3. And as of the latest version of Dotmod, at least the version I'm playing anyway, they might have updated it again since I last checked, you can control your own helicopters as a surface ship, which is really cool. So this thing comes with a single Wessex helicopter, which can drop a pair of Mark 46 torpedoes, I think, or Stingrays, I'm not sure which. And we can command it around the battlefield and tell it to conduct torpedo attacks and enemy contacts that we've identified, and it's actually really quite fun. And then you can get it to come back, land on the deck again, rearm it with more torpedoes, and send it back off again. It's really, really neat, actually. I don't know how they managed to code that in the game, but they've done it, and it is fun. So that's a thing. So we've got lots of toys to play with. One thing I like about this is that it has a max depth of 12 meters. I don't know why that makes me laugh, but it just does. So let's go ahead and have a play around with this, shall we? Accept assigned command of... pay no attention to the Russian commander name at the top there. I've been playing a Soviet campaign recently, and it's apparently the default commander name is stuck. So we have a suspiciously Russian-named captain, but we are in command of HMS Devonshire, apparently. Accept. Right, EXO status report. Let's have a look. So we've got, four missiles available in the vertical launch system, the VLS, so 4 Exocet missiles, and we have, the rest is all Mark 46 Mod 5 torpedoes. We've got plenty of those as well. 16 Sea-Cat missiles, 24 Sea Slugs, and yeah, that's it. We've got 30 decoys, so 30 noisemakers. I don't know how much chaff we have. Chaff, I don't know if that's even a thing that has a limit. You might not run out of chaff, I'm not sure. There's the damage control page, very nice, although I'm pretty sure that's not a picture of a county class. They've just put a placeholder in there. It's even got an American flag on the top, so that seals the deal. Here we go. All hands man battle stations. Let's do this.
On sonar, new contact bearing.
All right.
203.
Weather's relatively calm. What are the conditions like? Shallow. I actually did select a battlefield for us in the North Sea, which felt to me like an appropriate place to be commanding a Royal Navy ship. Let's turn on all our sensors, i.e. raise our masts.
Raise the
radar on and everything like that. Let's get the UI over here is a little bit dodgy. I don't really know why. It just is.
1 is classified as escort.
We've got an enemy aircraft identified already. That would be the enemy bear, by the looks of things. Yes, indeed. We have a Grisha as well, a Grisha 3. Enemy surface ship. Right, well, first things first, I think I'm going to press this button here.
198, designated Sierra 2.
To let our gunners fire it. Well, so if we're in range, they'll engage with the 4.5-inch gun there on the front. Potentially got something down there as well. The bear's headed towards us, so I'm going to launch the Sea Slug and hope for the best. From one of those launches on the back there, do you see that? Cool looking missile, this one.
Sierra 2, last bearing 198, contact faded.
So we can take this guy down. Contact faded. Alright, there's definitely a submarine down there. Not sure what kind. Just yet. Let's go active sonar actually as well.
Switching to active search.
That might help us find them a bit better. Don't have to worry about making noise in a surface ship. Okay, that looks like it completely missed. Indeed it did. Alright, that's no good. Let's fire another Sea Slug. Before he gets in minimum range, or is he already in minimum range? Well, that's not good, is it? Well, we've got a bear bearing down on us. Ha ha. Let's go flank speed. I don't know if we've got any anti-aircraft guns we can shoot it with.
We are cavitating.
I didn't expect the Sea Slug to miss quite so spectacularly there. That was a little bit embarrassing. Maybe I could try launching the Sea-Cat. There's 2 buttons here, and I'm not sure what the difference is, if I'm honest with you. Oh, Sam is ready to fire. Okay, that's secondary Sam. Oh, you can change the target for the missile. Interesting. So it looks like I can use it to target
steady course.
enemy ships, which is a bit crazy. Alright, he's just dropped a torpedo. I don't know if his torpedoes can even harm us, though, since we're a surface ship. He's dropping a sonar buoy. Okay, yeah, I think this plane is actually equipped to actually deal with this. So I don't know what the deal here is going to be exactly. I think that should set it to attack an aircraft, but he's within our minimum launch range right now, so this is not really working out, is it? Oh well. Doesn't really look like he can do much to hurt us right now, so in the meantime, how about we prep a helicopter?
Aircraft ready to launch.
Alright, let's launch this Wessex.
Launching aircraft.
And we'll give it a command to head... Actually, it doesn't need to go anywhere right now, it can just hover nearby.
Aircraft is in the air. Con sonar regained contact on Sierra 2, bearing 19.
I don't know what we're going to do about this bear, it's just kind of hanging out. The Grisha we are going to want to engage momentarily. He's not really doing much to engage us right now, but here it comes. What does this button do? I have absolutely no idea. There's no tooltips for these buttons, so I don't know what they do. This is the first time playing around with the Sea Slug, so I don't really understand what it does. I could set it into helicopter mode. I don't know if that will help, perhaps. Maybe it changes altitude? Maybe that's what that button does? Switching it from helicopter mode to, from the other mode. By the way, this bear is basically just watching us right now. Okay, this Grisha doesn't really represent much of a threat, if you ask me, looking at him. I'm not sure what weapons he's got. Oh, I've just accidentally minimised the game. That won't do. Yeah, it's Test 71M torpedoes. He's got his AK-725 guns, anti-missile defense. Not much else to speak of, really. I'm going to launch an Exocet missile at him and see what happens, I think.
Fire BLS.
So off that goes. We've got 3 more of those left. We're now just watching the bear come back down on us again. Okay, he's just launched something of his own, probably something to intercept our Exocet, if I had to guess. Whether or not it'll manage it, I don't know.
Sonar, launch transient from.
Yeah, he's launching SAMs. Probably should have launched more than one Exocet, to be fair.
Come left to 251, helm I.
Looks like it missed. What about the second one? This reminds me a lot of playing Jane's Fleet Command, this does. Yeah, it looks like both the SAMs missed. There's that bear continuing to stalk us. There's nothing I can do about him, weirdly enough. It's kind of... I don't know what to say about that. Alright, he's popped chaff. I don't think it's going to help him much, though. No, there we go. Well, that's him dealt with. We still have a submarine or 2 out there, though, which is the real problem. Secondary explosion somewhere, I'm not sure what that is. Might be some of his torpedoes exploding, I don't know. In the meantime, let's get the helicopter down this way somewhere. Ah, we've just reacquired Sierra 2, whatever that is. I'm going to slow us down so we can try and get a better sonar picture. One of the big problems you have as a surface vessel is you make so much damn noise that it can be difficult to acquire.
Master 2 is classified as submerged submarine.
Oh, it's a Sierra class. Oh, goody. We didn't come across one of these in the campaign, and I was glad for that. This is one of the most modern Soviet subs they have in the 80s. Dealing with this is going to be fun, although we are in relatively shallow water, so we've got that going for us. Right, let's send the Wessex over there to conduct an air attack on it, I think. And let's see if I can try and engage this damn bear with a missile. Just because he's annoying me. He's not really doing anything other than really kind of irritating me at this point. Don't know, he keeps circling around where I can't get him. Oh well. Could be able to shoot at him with the main guns or something, but apparently not. So the Wessex is going to make its way out down that way. We've got a pretty good fix on the Sierra as well. I'm actually a little surprised. We went from not knowing where he is to knowing exactly where he is very quickly. One thing I wish you could do with the helicopters, and maybe you can do it with the American ones, and this is just a, thing that Wessex doesn't have. Like, what did he drop there? Were those depth charges? I'm not sure. Maybe the Wessex just doesn't have sonar buoys or anything like that, or a dipping sonar, but it would be nice if you could actually do that. There doesn't seem to be a button anywhere here to get the helicopter to use a dipping sonar, so... I don't know how to launch the Sea-Cat. I don't think you can. I think it's an automatic thing that maybe happens. I'm not sure. Yeah, he's dropping a pattern of depth charges in front of us, showing off. Seems to be mostly what he's doing. Interesting thing is I'm getting a radar return from this way, or sorry, not a radar, but a radar warning receiver to return from this way. But I think it's the actual plane that's doing that. It's the bear itself that's giving us that return. All right, I guess I'm going to use time compression a bit. I've noticed that you tend to use time compression a lot less when you're doing surface engagements. A lot of things happen in a very small space of time, you see. So, all right, the Wessex is getting there. I'm gonna tell it to. I didn't tell you to do that, game, but whatever. I'm gonna tell it to conduct a torpedo attack right in front of the Sierra. Just drop a Mark 46 into the water right in front of it. There we go. Any minute now. There we go. And that dropped it right on top of him. My God. Okay, that's that was close, wasn't it? Nearly got a direct hit there. Not sure what would have happened if we'd gotten a direct hit there, frankly. Okay, yeah, he's now going into panic mode. I mean, I would if I were him right now. This is worst nightmare type stuff, this is. And it's immediately acquired him. Alright, let's get the helicopter to withdraw for a minute, so we can come back and make another attack in a moment. Okay, he's managed to send out of the way and dodge it for now. Oh look, there's the wreck of the Grisha down there. Okay, it will continue circling and looking for him. He won't be able to get very far without it reacquiring.
Aircraft orbiting waypoint.
Okay. I'm gonna have you head this direction.
Aircraft transiting to point.
We're gonna drop a second torpedo on him as soon as we can, because it is going to take more than one torpedo to sink him. I'm fairly certain of that. Okay, I need you to drop another one of these right in front of him. But it's going to be harder to figure this out because he's going quite fast, so I'm thinking there. After this one, you're going to have to come back to the ship and rearm. I think it's trying to outrun the torpedo at the moment. It's mostly what he seems to be trying to do. He's got a max speed of 35 knots, so he kind of can to an extent. Oh, he's changing direction.
Con, Flyco, aircraft dropping weapon.
Alright, he's dropped it. Right, you can come back now.
Con, Flyco, aircraft returning to base.
Alright, Mr. Sierra, you have another torpedo coming after you now, sir.
Con, fire control, weapon countermeasure homing.
Looks like it's going after a noisemaker or something. Hasn't acquired him yet. We know where he is. Question is, alright, these torpedoes, these Mark 46s we've got on the ship we can launch via our torpedo tubes on the side. They're not going to be able to do anything much to him because we're well out of range at the moment for those. So all we can really do for now is just watch this guy squirm. But I like him being nice and far away from us because I'd rather he didn't launch a torpedo at us because the Russians have wake-homing torpedoes which home in on the wake of a ship and chase it down. And the scary thing about them, at least in this game, is the fact that there's virtually nothing you can do about it once they acquire you. They are terrifying in that respect. Once they've acquired you, you can't really do anything because you can't outrun them and you can't shake them off with noisemakers like you can with a traditional torpedo. They're nasty bits of kit, those things. So the longer I can keep this guy defensive and not firing at us, the better, really. Alright, looks like he's shaken off that one. This guy's going to be a slippery customer, I can tell. Alright then. If we were in a fancy American ship, we'd probably have something like... yeah, the stupid bear is launching anti-submarine torpedoes at us. Including him in the scenario was clearly a foolish mistake. I shouldn't have done that. It's just daft. I'm mostly just thoroughly amazed and frustrated by the fact that we can't actually shoot him down for some reason. If I just try and... Oh, here we go.
Shoot 2-1.
Oh, I just shot a torpedo. No, that's not what I wanted, game. That's not what I wanted. Let's fire another sea slug in his general direction and see if it does anything. Probably won't, though. I don't know what the 2 here does. It's very interesting and confusing, and I don't get it. I don't understand this panel. This bit of the panel at all. I seriously don't get it. That's one of the missiles just went into the sea. Just shoot him with the big gun or something. For heaven's sake, this is absurd. Oh well. What's happening over here? Not a lot, unfortunately. Helicopter's still making his way back? Yeah, looks like it. Yeah, he's shaken off both of those, it looks like. I'm a little surprised, actually. I wish it was that easy when I was playing as the Soviets. Alright, the Wessex is back. We can now tell it to land.
Like aircraft landing.
And launch him again. Now he's got some more torpedoes attached. And we'll send him down this way.
Come left to 177 LI.
Oh, that's sending us that way, which actually might not be a terrible idea. It's Control H, not H, to direct the helicopter. There we go. Off he goes. Alright, I'm gonna speed us up.
Make turns for con sonar. We are cavitating.
Yeah, we're a ship, mate. We're allowed to cavitate. It's fine.
Con maneuvering. Making turns for
Let's speed us up, get us moving.
0 knots. Come right
Actually,
to
make a right
2.
turn here. Go to flank.
Make turns for 3.
Try and launch a
2
sea slug at this
knots.
git.
Maneuvering eye.
He's not going to get far enough away, though, is he? Or is he?
Con helm. Steady course.
No, it doesn't look like it.
Con maneuvering. Making turns for 3, 2 knots.
Yeah, this is irritating. I don't think there's anything I can do about it. This is kind of... I know that the developers probably haven't put anything in place for this because it's so daft, and the chances of this actually happening are next to nil, probably. I don't think they ever intended for me to run a stupid scenario like this with a bear as a surface ship. But it would be nice if there was some way to, I don't know, deal with this guy. Fire the close-in weapon systems at him? I don't know. An explanation for how this works would be nice as well. Honestly, this panel's a real mystery to me. Alright, where's the Wessex at? Alright, it's just about ready in position to make another attack run, so let's do that, shall we?
Con, flight go. Aircraft transiting to point.
Let's make another attack run right on his head.
Con, flight go. Aircraft dropping weapon.
Alright, where is he? Must be directly below us. Yeah, he's right there. Alright, come back out again this way a little bit and get ready to make your second attack run. He'll pop a noisemaker any second now, I'm sure. There it is.
Con, fire control, weapon countermeasure homing.
Con, flight go. Aircraft
Ready to drop the next one. Oh, actually though, he might be able to dodge it, but
Con, flight go. Aircraft
it's probably going to go over the top, isn't it? Or is it? Oh, no! There we go. Got a hit on him. Excellent. We dropped the second one over there, but he did change direction there, so that one's not quite as helpful. You might as well return to base now.
Flight go. Aircraft returning to base.
There is a bug in the current version of Cold Waters, actually. Sorry, the current version of Dotmod, actually, with the towed arrays. They seem to extend away into... Well, actually, no, this one's coming back in, although I think it's because he's retracting it. But if you don't retract them, the towed array just keeps going on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. It's quite funny. I don't know if they've released a patch to fix that yet, but... Well... Anyway, this guy is not having a great time. He seems to have face-planted his nose right into the seabed. I suspect any minute now he's going to blow ballast and surface if he even can at this point. He must have some pretty bad flooding. Or this torpedo is going to finish him off. But yeah, he's not having a great time, is he? Look at him. Oh.
Noisemaker bearing 159.
Fascinatingly, that did not finish him, and he's blown ballast. Although it doesn't seem to be doing anything for him. I think he's got too much flooding.
Con, helm, steady course.
Yeah, he's toast. He's not actually officially dead yet, according to the game, but he's toast. He's just blown ballast and he's not surfacing, so will very shortly drown. Hello, Mr. Bear. We won. You lost, chum, even though I'm not able to shoot you down. I have absolutely defeated you. All your friends are dead. I'm never going to be able to shoot him down, and it makes me so sad. He's just going to keep circling within my minimum firing range like this forever and ever and ever now.
Come right to 217 helm I. Con.
He can't hurt me, I can't hurt him. And so our eternal dance will continue. Hang on a minute, what just fired? Did I do that by accident, or did it... Yeah, I think I did that by accident. I got excited for a minute then. I thought maybe the Sea Cat was going to shoot him down. But no. Alright, Mr. Wessex, you can go ahead and land.
Con, flight go. Aircraft landing. Con, flight go. Aircraft go.
And we can finish. Leave combat. There we go. We engaged an enemy Sierra and Grisha. We damaged the Sierra, but apparently did not officially sink it. But, I mean, it was pretty dead. And, yeah, we sunk the Grisha as well. The game let us off easy there, actually. It only gave us one surface ship and one sub, and I set it up to potentially randomly give us 3 of each, which would have been a lot more spicy. Plus the bear, which, as it turned out, did nothing other than add comic relief to the entire incident. But hey, there you go. So there we are, folks. That is a surface engagement in cold waters. Did a custom mission just to show you. Actually, here we had I had 1 to 3 enemy submarines from these selections here, and 1 to 2 enemy surface ships from these selections here, so a bunch of enemy frigates and destroyers, and it gave us a tiny Grisha, and it gave us 1 Sierra. And to be fair, the Sierra was quite slippery until he wasn't all of a sudden. So, yeah, and I set it up to give us 1 bear. Also could have gone with a BE-12 male and an IL-38 May, but I don't think it would have made much difference either way, because I wasn't able to shoot it down the first time. But hey, so, ladies and gents, and that's where we fought, by the way. We were in the sort of northern area of the North Sea there, off the coast of Norway and the UK. So, everybody, there you go. Thanks for tuning in. That was a cold water surface battle, in case you were curious as to what they're like. I won't do a campaign of it, as I've already explained, because, yeah, you can't, yeah. I mean, I suppose it could be doable by Dotmod if they tailor-made a campaign around just controlling a surface vessel, and they made sure that all the missions you did made sense for a single surface vessel to actually do. So no jumping in a little Udaloy destroyer and being told to go and try and sink a Nimitz and all of its escorts by yourself. You know, actually have the game give you missions that are sensible and make sense. And who knows, maybe they've done that already, because it has been a long time since I tried to do the campaign with a surface vessel. And I know they can do that. They can like tailor certain missions for certain vessels, because they do it already in the Soviet campaign. When you start the Soviet campaign, you have to start off in a fairly crap diesel submarine, and it eases you into it by giving you missions that are suited to a crappy diesel submarine, which mostly consist of attacking very lightly defended convoys and dropping off Spetsnaz in Norway off the coast and stuff like that. And only once you upgrade to a better sub does it actually start to send you on more challenging missions. So I know they can do it. Maybe I should check it out. Maybe I should see if they already have done it, actually, and they give you surface vessel campaign missions that are actually appropriate. But yeah, I still think it's unlikely that I will ever actually do a campaign series with a surface ship, especially because Sea Power is in the works. You can see an advert for that on the main menu, I think, can't we, somewhere? If I recall. If we just go back, load back in again. There you go. Yeah, also check out Sea Power, Naval Combat in the Missile Age. That is being made by the same developers as Cold Waters, using the same engine as far as I'm aware, being published by Microprose, and it is essentially the same concept as this, except it is an RTS where you control multiple ships and submarines and aircraft rather than just one. And I am immensely looking forward to it, actually. There was a game, I already mentioned it once in this video, called Jane's Fleet Command back in the day, which was a similar concept. Very, very basic, early 3D graphics, but it was a lot of fun. I remember playing the crap out of the Falklands War scenario that it came with. And it was really, really good. And I'm hoping that Sea Power is going to be a lot like that, like a modern successor to Jane's Fleet Command, because if that's the case, it's going to be really, really nice. But especially once modders get involved with it, because if it's as moddable as Cold Waters has been, then that'll be very good indeed. And I look forward to it. But until then, I don't think we're going to be doing a lot of really serious surface combat in Cold Waters. I think I'm going to be waiting for Sea Power to do that. I recommend you check it out on Steam and wishlist it so you know that when it releases eventually, because that's what I've done. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in. We come back next time. I don't know exactly what it'll be with. It's been some time IRL since I finished the HMS Trafalgar campaign. I've reviewed all your comments in the comments section, and all the things you guys said you'd like to see, like the South China Sea campaign. I actually had to mod this. You see, there's a NATO South China Sea 2000 with brackets Royal Navy. I had to mod that to allow myself to actually use a Royal Navy sub in the South China Sea campaign, because in the old version of Dotmod, you could use a Trafalgar in the South China Sea campaign, but in the new version of Dotmod, they removed it. I'm not really sure why, so I made a modded version of the campaign, which adds it back in again, which is why that exists. But yeah, so some of you were quite keen to see a South China Sea campaign. A lot of you were keen to see a Soviet campaign, USSR, North Atlantic 1984. Both are great options. I know you guys want to see that at some point. So we'll see. I haven't decided yet what I really want to do next. We'll do one of the above anyway. There's also the 60s campaign. I don't want to launch into a series of that until I've had a little bit more of a play around with it myself off screen, because the 60s campaign's a real culture shock if you're used to the 80s and 2000s stuff, because it's a very, very different experience. All of your sensors, both yours and the enemy's, are really, really crap, so all combat happens at extremely close range. Everybody's really slow. Everyone has really crappy torpedoes. If you're engaging surface ships, you pretty much have to use World War II style, like, dumbfire torpedoes, because homing ones don't work. And it's a completely different experience. It's also way, way harder. It's something I want to play around with a little bit more, and once I'm a bit more confident with my 60s gameplay, I wouldn't mind doing a series of that as well. I particularly would love to do a series in the Guppy. In the 60s campaign, that might be one of the hardest ways to play Cold Waters that exists, as far as I'm aware. But the Guppy, if you're not familiar, is one of these. There's two versions in the mod. I think they were added in possibly the latest version. I was really excited to see them because I've read a lot about these in books and whatnot. But the Guppies were basically World War II Pacific Fleet boats that the Americans had, that they retrofitted in various ugly ways to sort of make them more suited to the Cold War era. They were fitted with snorkels, allowing them to operate underwater without servicing for air. And they had a few little improvements to make them a little bit more hydrodynamic. Like you can see this one with the redone conning tower / sail on it and stuff like that. But they're still essentially World War II style fleet boats. Glorified U-boat, really, and not even a late war U-boat either. Like, it's, as you can see, it's a very primitive looking beast. It has a top speed of 15 knots underwater. You go for the earlier version, the 2A, it only does 14 knots underwater. 17 knots on the surface. You're never going to be surfaced in it, though. It has Mark 37 Mod 3 torpedoes, which are very early homing torpedoes that are not very good. Worse than Tigerfish, if you can believe it. And Mark 16 Mod 8 torpedoes, which are dumbfire World War II torpedoes. And it has really poor sensors as well. Active sonar with sensitivity 30, passive sonar with sensitivity 32. The Guppy 3 has a slightly better passive sonar. There are later versions you can have fun with. You can have a go with the Barbell class, which is definitely smarter. The Nautilus, which was the incredibly noisy first ever nuclear submarine built by the Americans, would be quite fun to do a campaign in the Nautilus as well, actually, I have to admit. It's a very unique sub. There's the Skipjack, which was obviously a big leap forward in submarine design. It's the first one with a big sort of albacore hull form with the hydrodynamic sort of smoothed off exterior, which allows it to go way, way faster. It does like 30 knots, this thing. You compare it to the 23 on the Nautilus and much, much slower on the diesels. The Skipjack is probably the best way to play this campaign if you're not feeling very confident, because it's the best sub available. But yeah, I've also got the Permit, admittedly, which is not bad. And the Sturgeon. Although, I feel like there's been a... Well, hang on a minute. I'm not actually looking, of course. I'm looking at the wrong thing. I'm looking at the unit reference. I'm not looking at the actual campaign menu. So, I was about to say, I don't think they should have the late Sturgeon in the 60s campaign. Then I realised I'm not actually looking at the 60s campaign menu, am I? I'm looking at the wrong thing entirely. Here we go. This is what you can actually use in the 60s campaign. So yeah, Sturgeon and Permit, but the early versions. And then the Guppy 2s and what have you. You have the Mark 45 torpedo, which I had a little bit of reading about I did a little bit of reading on in the reference section. It's actually a nuclear torpedo, but in the mod they present it as being a what-if weapon where the US had decided to basically refit it so that it doesn't have a nuclear warhead anymore, because it is a homing torpedo that is much, much faster than the Mark 37. So that's kind of fun. You can have a play around with the Mark 45. But I would love, as I said, to do it in a Guppy. I would love to do the 60s campaign in a Guppy and see how long I can actually not get sunk. Because I have a feeling it would not be very long. Because even like the Soviet whiskey class boats are probably better than this thing. This monstrosity. But, God, it would be a laugh. Anyway. There's no British subs available in the 60s campaign. You could totally mod it. If you have a look at the unit reference section, there are 60s British subs available in the game. They just haven't added them to the campaign yet, and it is actually quite easy to add subs to a campaign in the mod files, so it could be something I did. If we go unit reference, we select the Royal Navy. Yeah, you got the early Oberon, which is armed with Mark 8s, and the Mark 20S Bidder torpedo, which is, again, not very good. You have Dreadnought, HMS Dreadnought, the first Royal Navy nuclear submarine, which, again, is armed with Mark 20 Bidders and Mark 8s. And in the 60s campaign, you might actually get some use out of the Mark 8s, unlike in the 80s campaign. Dreadnought's kind of a cool-looking sub. They added a bunch of other British subs as well in the new version too. The Valiant, the Churchill. Is there an early version of the Valiant as well? There is, man. That'd be a hell of a sub to use in the 60s campaign. That'd be really nice, actually. You got the Churchill class as well, which, of course, HMS Conqueror was famously a Churchill class. I have played around with this actually in the campaign, and the Churchill's real nice. It's good fun. It's essentially very, very similar to the Trafalgar. It's just a bit slower, but it's a good sub. I think it also has more torpedoes. Yeah, it has 32 tube stores instead of 30, which is nice. Although it has fewer wires. And it is slightly louder. But it's really good. And then you got the different versions of the Trafalgar as well. You got the late version. I think this is the one that features in the South China Sea campaign. Or it would. It did previously, in the previous version of Dotmod. Doesn't anymore. And then you have the 2000s version, which is the really late version of the Trafalgar with these big old bumps on the side. Not sure what they do, but had all of those added to it. And whatnot. And it's got the Spearfish torpedo, which is, of course, amazing. And some ridiculously good sensors, like, you know, sensitivity 54 on the towed array, which is just outrageously good. Stupidly good. For a comparison, the one we used in the series was a 44 sensitivity towed array, and that was pretty state of the art for the 1984 campaign. So this one is just outrageously good. You could hear a Soviet submariner fart 20 kilometers away with that, I suspect. Anyway. Yeah, anyway, there you go. That's a brief tour of some of the new things in the newest version of Dotmod. I really recommend picking it up. I'm going to go and check actually after this video is uploaded to make sure that and see if there's actually been a patch to update a few things, because they have now a actual Royal Navy 1984 campaign here called On Her Majesty's Silent Service, which is a nice reference in the title. Do appreciate it. Well done. Its difficulty is listed as tricky, which I find quite amusing. And this is good. However, it is still very much a work in progress, this campaign. And the reason it's listed as a separate campaign is because by doing this, they've been able to add things like proper British medals and ranks and things. So instead of getting awarded American medals like we did in the Trafalgar series, you'll actually get British medals and things. However, there's a ton of placeholder art, which means it's not really fully up and running yet. As you can see, it doesn't even have a background for the campaign. We've just got a blank white screen, and there's a lot of that. So it's still early days yet for that particular campaign, but I assume they're still actively working on it, so I'm sure it'll be improved in due course. If it hasn't been already, like I said, I need to go check. It is fun, though. They've implemented the prestige system they had from the Soviet campaign in this one as well. In the American campaign, you can still pick whatever submarine you like, but in the Soviet campaign and now in this British one, you have the prestige system where you have to start in a crap sub and work your way up towards getting a better one, which means that in this 1984 campaign, you start off in an Oberon class submarine, which is now playable, which is nice. However, the Oberon is hard work. It's a slow diesel submarine with iffy sensors, and it's armed purely with tigerfish. It doesn't even have any moss decoys. It's rough. It's pretty rough. It's not easy. It's really not easy. But the nice thing is, once you get enough prestige to upgrade to a Churchill class or a Trafalgar or whatnot, it's the game suddenly becomes a hell of a lot easier. It's sort of the real challenge of this campaign for me so far seems to be surviving in an Oberon long enough to upgrade to something else. So, unlike the Soviet campaign, you see, when you start the Soviet campaign, you start off in a Romeo or a Foxtrot or a Whiskey. The game gives you appropriate missions that are relatively easy to sort of, gently ease you into the campaign. The Royal Navy campaign doesn't do that in the current version. They give you a crappy Oberon, and then they immediately tell you, right, go and sink an aircraft carrier. Which is what makes it really tough. But it's good. If you want a challenge, my God, it delivers. It's really good fun. But yes, do recommend. The Soviet campaign is also awesome. I have been doing, as I said, a Soviet campaign off camera recently. It's great. It's really hard. You have to climb up the greasy pole of promotion to try and get a submarine that's actually worth a damn, and you better hope you don't get it sunk, because if you do, you have to go downgrade to a really crappy one again. And it's tough. It also lasts like twice as long as the NATO one, because the NATO one, you complete a series of successful missions, and then you get to do the boss fight with the enemy nuclear missile sub at the end, like we had in the Trafalgar series. But in the Soviet campaign, you have to slog it out trying to attack and sink convoys for months, while the ground troops slowly crawl their way across Europe and conquer the map. In the current Soviet campaign I'm doing, for reference, the Trafalgar campaign we were at war for 44 days. So the in-game war lasted for just over a month. My current Soviet campaign is on like day 80. So my current Soviet campaign I'm doing off camera is already twice as long as the Trafalgar one was, and it's not even close to finished yet. The ground troops are not even close to conquering all of Europe yet, so I've got to still keep going. So if we ever do a Soviet campaign series, the chances of me surviving to the end of it are infinitesimally small, because it's so much longer, and you start off in much crappier submarines. I've only survived to the end of the Soviet campaign once, and it was because I managed to upgrade and get enough prestige to take the Papa class submarine out, which is the ludicrously fast one that goes like 45 knots, which allows you to actually run away from even most American torpedoes. So I was able to basically just use that thing for the entire rest of the campaign, which allowed me to be almost untouchable. And I cheesed my way to the end of the campaign by using the Papa, basically. I have yet to beat that campaign using a non-cheesy submarine, but who knows. Anyway. Right, that'll do it. I think about half of this video was me just talking in menus, to be honest with you. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, folks. A little look at surface combat, a little look at the other features of the newest versions of Dotmod. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you had enjoyed having a little look at that. I will catch you guys again in the near future with some more Cold Waters whenever it happens to come out. And until then, have a good one. Toodaloo.